Yum, yum!
We are live. What we will talk about today is Rhizome UV and especially the work with not just model, because you can use any DCC application for your UV work. So I have a typical example that I'm working actually this week. I mean, the last week I worked on it. So I will open it just to let you know how it's working with Rhizome UV. So I will open the scene. Where is that? We'll grab it here. Okay, so that's the bake one. I will open the bake one. Okay, so maybe I will open an exploded export, or yeah, maybe the export exploded. As I'm doing some baking, I need to export the explode patch of meshes in order to get correct. Okay, so I'm loading the FBX. Anyway, it should work. Okay, so here is a little example. Okay, I have different pieces that I've made. It's part of a bigger object, but everything is exploded in order to create the baking without having some near baking of those items. Okay, so this one I will just explode, get the bigger layout. Okay, so let me see how I do this. Yeah, this way. So on this one already I've created the UVs using Rhizome UV, and what I really like with this is the space used inside those islands. So when you have any circle like those, you may have UVs inside it. And what is also really interesting is that the spacing here is really in numbers of pixels. So if you load, for example, I will load an image for this, just a regular UV map, UV texture, sorry. So I will add a pass. I have mine, didn't set it up. Okay, so I will open it. Okay, game content, UV grid, select this, and yeah. So here I'm loading a 2K map. So this 2K map can be visible normally here. It should. Why there's no show image? Okay, sounds strange. Show wireframe, show image. It's on. I will load it. The load image. It will be better. I was thinking it might load also in the UV viewport, but it didn't. Anyway, so we'll load the same one. Okay, UV grid, 2K, open. So it's open normally, and it didn't load. Okay, so what is interesting with this is especially the space between those. So here we have 1 square is 1 pixel, okay? So what is really interesting is that it preserves correctly the specific spacing on the border of any UV space. Okay, so if you have also UDIM, of course, you might have some spacing between those. Okay, So that's really interesting for that, to get the space correctly used, and also the space inside those islands also used. So how I process this one, basically you can create your own UV map or prepare it from scratch. So what I will do probably is select all the boundaries of those of this mesh for the UV boundaries and unwrap them. So I will totally broke the setup, but this is just for explanation purpose. So what you can do, of course, in Modo, you can orient PCs, okay, automatically on horizontal and vertical part of it. But as you can see, sometimes it didn't unwrap correctly, but most of the times it's okay. And even if you have this kind of shape, it didn't find that the automatic orientation is correct. So what is sometimes interesting is that you can orient the pieces, but if it didn't work, you can still use some simple actions like selecting this edge or selecting another edge like this. And when you are selecting those edges, you can orient those straight, horizontal or vertical. And what is interesting in Modo is that you can select multiple one and it will automatically orient them. Okay, so that's really interesting for that. For this purpose, for this kind of meshes where you have many square, many shapes that can be embedded into a bounding box, it's really interesting to have those oriented correctly. Okay, so just to be sure that if you have some pixel behind, they were in line, so you will not have any problems with, I can say, aliasing effect on the baking. So yeah, trying to preserve the maximum those straight line is really important. So we have this, we might try to pack it. So you have some texel density tool, but as we've unwrapped everything, normally everything should get the same texel density. So if we click normalize, we have no change. Okay, so just another time, if I make this too big, okay, we have a disparity between this area and this area. So we have more pixel shown here than this one. So this one has a bigger texel density. So if you want to get the same texel density, you should normalize the UVs. Okay, and it takes the same texel density as what you've defined here. Okay, so for 1 meter you can have at least a 1K map used for the space. So usually you can work with that. You can work directly in Modo and pack things, and everything should be okay. You can do this way. Okay, so we are just packing roughly 1 time, so you have no mutation effect in or processing into Modo. So that's also why I prefer to do some UV map pass into Rhizome UV. So that's my own quibble, if I can say. I quibble a bit on the details, but it can be really interesting. So as you can see here, it can pack correctly, but all those space, the round circle, are not used at all. Because the algorithm is just using the bounding box of the UV here, and probably there's some test that can be done on the side, but not inside the shape itself. So we have this kind of things, and we have some disparity in shapes that can be, of course, rectangle. So you have this kind of tool that rectangle and straighten those UVs, but you can get this also in Rhizome UV. So I will jump to Rhizome UV right now. So what I do usually is using my bridge, but you can export the meshes as an FBX, okay, and load it into Rhizome UV. Sorry. So I will save this one as just an example. Okay, example point FBX, and we will open Rhizome UV. So what I'm using here is Rhizome UV virtual space. You have two different solutions. One is maybe better for CAD workflow. Well, I'm okay. I'm fine with the virtual space. It's enough. There's enough elements and tool for working with this. So when you open it, you need to load the UV. If you do load directly on an FBX, it will not load the UV that is inside it. So you can do this. You can just load the meshes. So I will go back to the temporary folder and load the, what is the example? Where is that? Okay, example FBX. So if you load the mesh, you see that the UVs, I mean the UV view here is the same as the 3D view. And if you zoom in and zoom out, you see there is some perspective effect. So it's really a 3D environment here, okay, but flattened totally. So in my case, I will maybe do a first little explanation here with how you can cut and unwrap those elements. So this is really simple, but as you can see, we have a mesh that is already open at some point. We have the UV boundaries that are shown here in pink, okay, and you have a bar here that represent the deformation and the stretch of the UVs. So actually we have no UVs unwrapped, okay, so there's no distortion, there's no problems with the stretching. So what you should start is unwrap this. So you have different types of selection mode. You can select by point, you can select by edge, polygon, and primitive. So a primitive is an island. So if I select this is all the connected faces here, okay, it's stopped here. So it's a connected island. It's not just a UV island, it's just an island, an element, like in Max. So you can do some cuts by selecting the edges. So for example, if I want to do some cuts, I can select this one, use the there's a shortest pass selection mode, but I probably disable this one. Should get a look. I'm still learning it, but yeah. Okay, so I will do this with polygon mode. So I just have to press F2 to edge, F3 to polygons, and F4 for islands. So usually when you are coming from Modo, that's really simple because it's fairly the same stuff. You didn't use 2, 3, 4 keyboard shortcuts, but F2, F3, F4, so that's really simple. So I will select those islands, for example. You can do selection with, of course, lasso tool. So we have a selection now, and if I want to cut it, I just have to press C to cut. And as I press it, you see that I'm creating those cuts here. It's a kind of a tag that says that this edge is cut, okay? So here you can show or hide the borders that's the UV boundary. So with that, if we start to unwrap, it will not unwrap it correctly because we need to cut it one more on this edge, for example. So I will select this and press C to cut. Now if I select the island, so the UV island, now as we've made some cuts, I can unwrap by pressing U. Okay? And with this this element, I can straighten it vertically or horizontally. And actually I'm working with triangulated meshes, so of course I cannot use those options to use the rectangle algorithm, the same as, or fairly the same as what you have in model, but it's fine. We can do this way. And in order to move and organize your space, you just have to press the spacebar, and with the middle click you can move things over. Okay, you can also with the left click scale it. I will take a drink. One moment. Okay, we'll take a cup of tea, that should be better. Okay, so with the spacebar, so you can do some actions like the scale with the left click, with the middle click, the center click, the middle click, it's moving, and you can rotate, of course, and add some orientation work here. So what I do probably is selecting this, straighten here, and move it on the side. So you have probably, I didn't take a look closer into this, but there's probably some unfold algorithm directly for this kind of mesh directly. But as I said before, we will use the UVs done in model and change them, optimize them, and repack them. So you can do this way. You can do some cuts, as I said, with edges. You can do some cuts with selection of polygons. So for example, if I want to hide, for example, this element because we've already deployed it, I can select it with F4, and with I can isolate, or I can hide it with H. So with H, like in model, you hide the elements. Then I can select this one, and I can unwrap again here by pressing U and maybe organize it. I can just maybe use those algorithms just to orient it correctly, move it on the side, and etc, etc, doing all the process. So of course this one didn't work too much, because as you can see we have some deformation, and as you can see, if I select those this UV island here in the 3D view as well as in the 2D view, you see there's some stretch. So it means that the correct color that you should match is the grayish, and the blue means that that's too big, way too big for the size, and for the red it's compressed. Okay, so as we have this, probably what we should do is select those faces, those here also. As I do this, it's not selecting the back faces. So you should be in right wireframe if you want to select all those faces, front and back. Okay, so as you use Shift and drag, you can select more UV, more polygons. So as I do this, I can press C, so I've cut it. I can also probably grow the selection if I'm not misleading. Keypad add. Okay, I've made a cut, so probably that's because I made a cut. I can grow it. I can't grow it, sorry. So, okay, so if you didn't cut it, of course you can grow the selection. So that's fine. We can do the same thing as in Moho for the growing selection or any other DCC app. 3ds Max or Maya have this probably, I'm sure. And we can cut this one, and maybe we will select less in order to select back the bottom side, just the bottom part of it. Okay, right? So here also we will cut. So now probably what we can do is selecting everything here, maybe isolate it by pressing I. And now we can again unwrap it. I will probably do a selection. So there is a selection mode with shortest pass, I'm sure. I should check how to get back to this mode, but I've probably changed the preferences. It's Shift or Control. Cannot remember what was the shortest pass. I should ask. So there's a Discord for Rhizome. So what is really interesting is connecting to the Rhizome UV Discord. You can then have some discussion, and if you have any question, that's really interesting to have some fellows user that can explain you how to do this, or having some bridges or scripting stuff also. So there are some possibilities to get connected with those users also. So as I said, we've deployed this one, and we will straighten this here. And we can also, what is really interesting is the optimization tool. So you can do this multiple times. You can iterate the tool, so you can press just one time and it will process the data 4 times. Okay, so you may didn't see too much, but if I do Control Z, you see that if just shrink those little holes in order to get a better repartition of the deformation. So you see it starts to be red here. There's some compression. Okay, so what I can do again is get back the UVs, press space to move those, unwrap those. Oops, this one. Okay, unwrap, maybe isolate those. Should probably do a cut also in between. So I should select those edges and press C to cut. Do the same stuff here. So there's some solution also with Rhizome UV. I didn't test them already, but it seems to be fairly flexible. You see that these elements have the same amount of edges, the same geometry, and you can pack and overlap those islands. So we have actually 4 different islands, 4 different elements that have the same kind of geometry, and so what is possibly what you can do possibly in Rhizome is overlap those into just one space. So I will cut those and try to find this one. Okay, should find the shortest pass selection. Where is that one? I probably disabled it. Should find it next time. So shift to add some selection, then I can cut. And now as I'm here, I can go back, select back those and unwrap. And now as you can see, the unwrap is better. We can also of course pack. We will pack those. Okay, so if I show the rest, it might be different, but okay. So I can maybe select this. Edges, straighten it. This one also, straighten. And now I will try to pack those. So you can create some groups. What is really interesting is for those kind of elements that share the same, probably the same material, the same information, you can probably group them. So I will group them by pressing J. Oh, and some of them I've moved in the wrong space. Okay, so I will go back and shrink on this. We will pack again this. So those buttons here is about the layout, so you can pack, you can fit to the 0, 1 UV space, and you can also share the same texel density. So if I do this, I will put the same texel density on every pieces, and then I can repack them. So actually they are packed into a bigger space. But yeah, okay, so we have those. So there's some tools. Okay, so that's select similar islands. So if I select this one, probably as I've made some triangulation, I couldn't get back those into the same geometry, because you see we have edges, specific edges orientation here, and probably not the same here. But if you have the same geometry, so if you are working with just quads, you can select the same islands and then you can overlap them into the same space. So that's really interesting for that. So I will just load directly the UV, so the previous option, just to make things more quicker. So I have opened it back. Oh, it didn't. How I can do this? It didn't update it because we are loading the same APX. So I will close that, not save, and just selecting my object. I will export it with my live link. We'll save it into the temp folder. Okay, export, yes. So now we are jumping into Rhizome UV. It will launch and load the UV. So okay, now we have the UVs from model. So straight ahead from that, we see that we have some deformation here and there. So we can use the selection with islands, so F4, and just unwrap them again. Maybe orient them like this, move them to the side, do the same stuff on this one, unwrap this one, move it on the side, and probably straighten it. Okay. So that's really quick. You can do some unwrap with just one key, etc., and orient things with shortcuts. So that's really fine. Did you have any questions? You are free to ask anything on the chat. I'm still looking at it. Okay, no question at this moment. So here we may take a look a bit closer on the texel density. So here, this is a great tool that tells you if there's not the same texel density between UV island. So for example, I will select one and make this bigger. So I will press space and left click and maybe make this much bigger, like that. So if I move this on the side, that's not this one, that's the stretch. No, so the stretch is about the deformation itself of the UV island. So this one of course is blue. You see there's also red color because it's not correctly unwrapped. So if I unwrap it, now I'm going back to the correct color. But with the texel density, I think that's the texel density. So texel density range, manual, mode automatic. Okay, so that's the mode automatic. So as you can see, you see directly if there's disparity into your UVs in terms of texel density. So that's really fine to have this kind of tool and just select it. You can also get the shaker if you prefer. So you can change the shaker size. Where is that? I'm on the small screen, so searching the different options here. Okay, so I should so you can click on those top bar menus and it will close or collapse the menu. So I'm collapsing those, and here I will select a different shaker tiny, so maybe 4. Oops, I need to press 4. Okay, so if I just uncheck the texel density, you see that we are viewing the texel density on both, but yeah, maybe that's not the most effective way to see the texel density, because you can guess, okay, I'm viewing this into the 3D view, so maybe it should match. You might didn't know because one is in front or closer to the camera and the other is farther. So that's very interesting to have this option, texel density and automatic mode. So now we can see it directly just by hiding the shaker. Just by the color we can see that, okay, this one is not good, definitely not. So you can select maybe this UV island and you can get the texel density. So you can click here with the pick, Alt Q, and you get the value of the texel density, and then you can select another one and set the same texel density. So now, as you can see, the color have changed, and now we are much more uniform in terms of colors. So if I hide also here the UV boundaries, the wireframe, so just the shading like this with no line, we can clearly see that those are not correctly unwrapped. So I'm checking those. This one also, this one needs maybe much more work, so I can select it and press F into the 3D view, and I can select it now again. So that's this one. Is that this one or another one? Let me see. Okay, that's a PCs inside. Okay, so I will isolate this one, press I, and probably I will cut those. So if I cut here, I will select F2 to select the edges and cut here to get the connection in between. So press C, and again selecting the island and unwrap, and now it's much better. Okay, so now we have a correct UV layout. Okay, so we are at about how many times? Just checking the times for the stream. Okay, if you're if you have any questions, just ask directly. I will spend just maybe 15 minutes more on the Rhizome UV stuff, and after we will talk about rounded edge shader, but not in model, in a totally different application that I found recently, and I was really impressed by the results, so I will talk about this also. So I will unhide the rest with Y key, unwrap this one. Oh, this one should need some more cuts probably, so I will cut this here, isolate, select those polygons, press C to cut. So you can probably do some macros inside Modo in order to select some UV islands, convert the selection to the UV boundary, etc., and unwrap, and you have plenty of options. I've already done some tools for that, but some scripts. But yeah, you can do this in Rhizome UV really simply by just pressing a few keys. Okay, so I will cut also here and unwrap it again. So select them, unwrap, and that's all. I can also, of course, as I said, we have just a square here, so we can convert this to a rectangle. So of course there's some distortion into it. Go back here. Okay, so we see the distortion into it, but it's up to you. You can do this way. You can left it unwrapped, and you will get the good result. So this one may need to get the same different texel density, of course. So if I select those both, or select this one, I can do the same thing, pick, set, and now I have the same texel density on both sides. You can also optimize it. So if you press O, you can change a bit the shape, just to correct any deformation. So I will go back. Why? We might need to work on more elements. So I will go back to the previous shading. Okay, unwrap. Where is the last one? Could I hide the... Okay, I can maximize also the view. Should be okay this way. Is there some... Okay, a bit deformation here. Okay, so I will stay with the rectangle mode here. Sounds good. Maybe optimize this one to get a better repartition. Okay, so here we have all those UV unwrapped. Now we may need to pack them. So first things, you can constrain those islands to not be able to rotate during the packing. So if I want to rotate just 90 degrees every time, because I have many pieces that have square kind of shapes, it's maybe better to get 90 degrees, because if I have the packing with this kind of shape rotated, maybe it's not good. Okay, so I will select them all the UV islands, normalize their texel density. So I click here. Every pieces will share the same texel density. So as you can see, we are in the same color actually for every pieces here. Should be okay. And we can pack. So if I pack here, it will use all the different rotation because I just let it off. Okay, so it's packing with a not so good organization. It tries to pack those like this, but that's maybe not what we want. So what we should do, also I need to click on auto fit because I disabled this one. So if I pack it again, it will be packed and fit into the... Okay, I used specified texel density, so I should also keep it average and again pack it. The average is big, so it will not change now. So the initial state is too big. I will select them and set them to the previous size. So now they are a little small. So if I keep the average texel density, it will try to pack them, but without changing their space, their area used. So I will pack it, pack those. What I'm missing? So they are not there now. Don't know why. What I've missed? Follow average texel density. Keep do not resize the islands. So if I fit them, okay, should select them all. So I have a selection here, indicator, that I have 36 islands. So I can probably fit them back into one, but that's not the case. So I will go back. I've worked before with specific texel density, so I maybe messed up my organization. Okay, so we'll unlock them. Okay, keep the initial scale, auto fit, and mutation. So if I select them again now, and pack them again, it should be okay. So you see you have an indicator here for the process, and now we have a pack. But as I said, I didn't want to change the orientation of those, so I've selected those islands and select the orientation to 90 degrees. And I will not press the pack, but the pack translate. The pack translate is just moving things, move the different islands in Y or X axis, okay? So it will not rotate them. So Shift P to process the packing, and it's only packing one time, as you can see. So if I change the mutation here, it can run, for example, 4 times or much more, and try to improve the scale of those. So I will move them all outside, so it will, the Rhizome UV might need to repack them into the space here, as we are using just one by one UV tile. And I will select them again, Shift P, and now it will process multiple mutation. So again, select them, Shift P, redistribute. Sorry, I didn't check this. I have used Rhizome UV before with a different project, so I have got the previous settings. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please left me some questions on the chat. So here we are packing, and as you can see, the process, the results have changed over time. So it means that with the mutation, the amount you have here, you can define multiple iterations of the same process over time. And Rhizome UV will try to give you the best solution over the time. So the more you are using the mutation, the more it takes time to process, but it processes on the GPU, so it's really fast, mostly. And what you can see directly straight from out of the box, you have packing inside those UV islands with holes. And also, what is really interesting that I said before, you have the margin and the spacing. The margin is the margin you have between two UV tile. Okay, so we have 0, 1 UV tile here, and of course you can get some other on the side. So if I add one here, this is the margin. So you can define that you have a specific map resolution. So this one is for 2K map resolution, and it automatically give me a margin of 4, because 4 is just 8 for both sides, okay? And the spacing between the UV islands is 8, okay? So you can be sure that the spacing between the different UV islands is respected, and that's really interesting. Okay, so here, for example, we have this packing. So you can also pack multiple elements. So for example, if I select those and say, okay, those different islands are the biggest one, I may use them with a bigger texel density, for example, or a lower, because they are using many space here. So I will move them on the side on a different UV space. And now we are working with UDIM. Okay, so here you can add much more UDIM tile. So in our case, we will just stay with 1 and 2, just for the purpose. So you move them here, and you uncheck redistribute. So now it will pack those into this space, and those one into this space, normally. So I will press Shift P, and we will see how it goes. So it starts to process the first one, the first space here. You see that's pack 0, now that's pack 1. So it will try another solution, and after it will auto-fit this to the 1 and 0, 1 UV space with this checkbox. So any questions? I don't know if you can also directly talk into the Discord, but as I have the music, I might didn't hear it. Okay, so as you can see, I've packed this area and this area into two different UDIM. Okay, we have the 1 and the 1001 and 1002 UDIM. Okay, so of course we have a different texel density. This one maybe gets lower pixel density, texel density than the other one. So if we use and open the checker, you see you have much more pixel on this part than this one. Okay, so that was one example. So I will stop on this one and jump into PixaFlux presentation. If you have any question, please fill the chat and give me some questions. I will jump to the next section of the stream now. So I will just undo this one, go back to the first packing we've made. Okay, so this one was okay. So we were using a 2K map with a margin. Okay, so I will now just add to save the scene, save the FBX, and directly into model. If I close, I will get the updated packing. Okay, so now we have the new packing from Rhizome UV. So what is about PixaFlux? So I didn't talk about Rhizome before. So also that's important to know that they've made a little discount for the Easter this year. So you can get 25%. I'm not working for them, but the tools is really interesting. So I hope you can get profit of this and use your discount. So the discount code is this one for the current discount, the official discount from Rhizome. But also Rhizome gave me some coupon code that you can add to this, so you can get much more than 25% discount. So I will tell you at the end of the stream, of course. You're okay. So PixaFlux is the one shown on my GIF, right? Yeah, that's about a rounded edge shader, but not in model. That's a different software. So I will talk about this now. So stay on the stream for the next coupon code for Rhizome if you want. So this is just PixaFlux.com. So you can. I was searching for some solution on YouTube and on Google and any sources for research, and I found this software inside a video, and I was a bit or you can say stunned by the result, because it's a freeware actually, if I'm not saying wrong things. So it's kind of Substance Designer, but with some much more 90s or I can say maybe 80s look into the UI and the different nodes. But yeah, you have some features, and especially the one with you can use some shapes and vectors to create shapes, and also do some actions and some processing to the image. But in our case, we will talk about the rounded edge effect. So what I will do is just making, so we'll get this on the side, say this as a new scene, just temporary, and we will do just a little example with just a few cubes. We can also finish with this one, maybe if we get enough time, but just for explaining the purpose and how it works. So I will save this scene first in the temp folder. Okay, so we can go now and create a new one. So we can get just a little space here, add a cube. Oh, sorry, going too fast. Okay, so we'll not use the advanced mode, maybe with the stream working on the background should be better. We stay on the default and disable the UVs. Okay, so we have, for example, this cube, and if you create some beaver here, do this, then do that, Of course, you can get some rounded edge effect or shade via the shader of model. So if I go to base material, and I will apply a material to it. Oops, sorry, wrong shortcuts. M, default, OK, and the material got some properties here, and we will use, so I'm using the game settings for the smoothing angle and the weight by polygon area, but the main things, of course, is the rounded edge width. So this object actually is about 1 meter, if I'm not bad. So I will show the dimension. Okay, so we have 1 meter and 1 meter 48 for the height. So if I say I want to get a rounded edge of about 5 centimeters, it should be visible. Okay, so 5 centimeters, so 50 millimeters, of course, converted. And I go to the render preview. I can get the rounded edge effect. Okay, so that's fine. Usually that's fine for every concave, convex area. So this is a convex area. For example, the normal here and here are not pointing into a convergence point. Okay, so if I open back maybe the visibility and show the normals, of course you see that if I hide the work plane, this one is pointing this direction and this one this one. So they are not crossing each other, so they are convex. A concave is this. If I'm not misleading, tell me on the chat if I'm just telling wrong things, but I think that's okay. Concave and convex. So the concave effect is this one. They are crossing. Okay, those two normals are crossing. So if we show the curvature, for example, we will get black area here and white area here. Okay, so when you are doing some game content, the rounded edge shader is really great at first. But if you want to get rid of those artifacts here, where you have convex and concave, concave area like those two duo of faces, when you have star edges like this, it starts to do that kind of wrong shading. Okay, as you can see. So of course, from this point of view, if the element is at this distance, you might didn't see anything. Okay, we should be fair. Okay, it works. But if you want to be sure that the baking is not creating any artifact, it's not the solution, or at least not for me. So I was searching for a solution for this, and so I found the PixaFlux website and download the software. So you have just a download section here, and you can get the latest one, and the latest one have the specific new node for the smooth normal. So this is the mesh smooth normal that we are talking now. So if I open back now, I will open the PixaFlux software on the side. So I will select this object, and we need to do a few things before using PixaFlux. So PixaFlux will need to work with hard edge and the UVs. So it means that everywhere you want to get the smooth rounded edge effect, you need to get a cut into the UVs. So it's working into the context. So basically, if I isolate, for example, this face, okay? If I isolate this face, and this is basically the UV representation of it, of course on the side there's a space, okay, in the UV space, but here there is a face, and probably that the algorithm is taking the adjacent color in world space and getting this back into this area just on the boundary. So it starts to blur from here to here gradually with a specific amount. And so, for example, if this one is red and this one is green, it will push some red color into here, okay? So gradually, like a gradient. So of course, if you show the preview, and probably we'll put some render output to show the workspace normal. If I go to here and select the shading normal, okay, and maybe uncheck remap pixel value, we can see that, of course, here we have two different colors, and what PixaFlux will do is taking this color and painting the border with a specific gradient inside it. So it's based on the UV. So as I said, so we select everything, we press M to create a material, we have a new material, we go to the shading, goes to the material settings and change the smoothing angle to 88.9. Welcome to the radio. Okay, so I will show the UVs. Okay, we got the UVs. We are good to go, I think. I hope it should. Okay, so I didn't got the menus for the game tools. Where are there? They are there. Baking, no. Vertex map, yes. Convert to out edge, yes. Okay, select out edges. Now go back to the UVs, go to unwrap and unwrap, and I orient the pieces. Okay, so now if I select this, and this, so I will connect those three faces just for the purpose to explain how PixaFlux works. I will unwrap, so we got 1, 2, 3 polygons, right? We should get this rectangle, and that's working. So something is wrong with one of my kits. Maybe not mine, just, but I should check. Okay. Note for the next stream, use the safe mode of model. It should be there. Okay, so we have this, and we will use the texel density again, normalize, and pack, of course. Okay, so we have the pack now. The spacing is not so huge, so I will higher this value. 55 should be okay. Okay, we have just a better space here. Now I will export this as an FBX. So I will go to the system preferences, go to FBX, and select Unity static. It should be okay. So get the mesh triangulated, save mesh smoothness, just smoothing groups, materials, geometry, export all, export selection only. Okay, we should be good to go. So I close that, I export this, export as, and I export this as an FBX. So go back to the 10 folder and I will create the PixaFlux folder. Okay, then I name it test. Oh, I save it as an LXO file, I think, not as an FBX. I will do this again, export as. Do I have, yeah, I do done this. So FBX test.fbx. Okay, so we've exported this as an FBX. Now we can open PixaFlux. So I'm opening it. It's on the next screen. Get back this here. So how it's going on? After about 30 minutes searching about how to fix this issue with the UVs, now we are back into PixaFlux. So to create your baking for the rounded edge, you need to create a new scene. So we are into a project now. So you go to create new project and you can then click here with the little plus to create a scene. So this scene lets you load a file, an FBX file. So you can display the UVs. So if I'm using Alt and left click and can move into the space here. Okay, so this is the UV space. We can define a different resolution, so I will just maybe use 512 or 1024. Yeah, 1024 should be okay. And here we can select a file. So this file will be the FBX. Okay, FBX, PixaFlux test FBX. So we have the UVs from model, right? Now that we have the UVs. Yeah. So what you should do, actually you have the list of the objects, and this, especially this tool, PixaFlux, didn't work with multiple UDIM. So if you want to get multiple UDIM, you need to pack them all into just one big map. Okay, you can get one UV UDIM here, one UDIM here, one UDIM here. Okay, so you can do 3 by 3 or 2 by 2 or 4 by 4, but you couldn't use UDIM's tiles like you have UVs on the side, etc. It didn't work this way. So anyway, you can visualize the object. So I can show the viewport, and you can see we have here the object from model. So the orientation is not good, but that's fine. It will work and process the baking correctly. So you can load an image for the background. I have one. We'll search this here just to let you show here. Okay. Oh, where is the map? Okay, didn't got it. Anyway, you can see things with the normal. So if you check normal, here you can see just a world space normal. So we have the viewport here, but we need to add some nodes. So the first node is scene texture. If you didn't got this, you cannot bake the texture into this texture. Bake the rounded edge into this texture. So as we have this, we need to get a constants. So it's like really a Substance Designer, but in an old fashion with old nodes, but it's working perfectly well for the purpose. So here we have a texture scene that have a specific size. So in the size here we'll say 1024 and 1024. So now we can match the UV space, okay? Because the UV space was 1024, 1024. So we have a constant, and this constant is just a color. Okay, you can give a color to the object. If you go back to the normal mode, you will get the color. So here we have some green. Okay, object. So go back to normal. Go back to just the white color or gray. Okay. This way, and you will call the mesh smooth normal node. And this is where the magic happens. So this node needs to get a specific size. Okay, so 1024, as we said. And you see it starts to process the baking. So if we go here in the viewport, you will see that nothing happens. It's because the radius by default is at 0. So if I do 2, it will start to process the blending. So you see that there's some lines that can occur here and there, but it's also depended. It depends with the UV. I mean, it's related to the UV layout you've made. So here I have some lines that appear here and on the second one, because probably I should cut, and this is the way it works, I should cut those. So here we have this result. We can define a different padding. So actually, if I zoom in, you see there's a little padding here. So for the 1024, 4 is okay. Maybe 8. Yeah, 8. So it processes when it's processing on the lower upper top right side. You will get a process visible. So if I change it, you see processing image on the top. Okay, so we have this. So what I'm doing usually in my new workflow is to render different size for the radius in order to get different rounded edge distance. But as you can see here, the typical artifact that you've got in model is not there. Okay, you have totally blended normals here. You have no artifact at all. Maybe this line, of course, if you look straight like this, but like that, it's fine. You have nothing. So what you should do probably in order to prevent those lines is to cut every faces. So if I hope it will not crash, PixaFlux not model, because sometimes it did. So I will select those UVs and detach them. So I need to check the properties. Tear off is enabled. I'll go back because we've moved. Okay, K, tear off. Move this here and move this also. So now we have cut on every pieces. Of course not those, okay, because that's totally flat. But now we can select again the mesh, export it, export to test, and open back PixaFlux, and you can reload here the FBX. So it's reloading the FBX and process the image again. And now, as you can see, the line that we've seen before is not there because we've cut those hard edge totally. So you need to get the same UV boundary border as your hard edge. Okay, so this is really important. If not, if you didn't do this and try to continuously get an island with this face and the next face behind, it will not work. Okay, so as we have this, we can export the file. Okay, so you go to File, say Display Image, and you define the displayed image into different file format, and the 16-bit is there, so that's really great for the purpose. So I will just open those here that I've made for different mesh, just to show you. So open in Photoshop. So I rendered, for example, for my okay, I have questions. Can you set the preview color to the same so you can see the effect better? Or does it have to be normal color? No. You can create your own PBR shading. So you have the albedo, the roughness, the metalness, etc. You can create this, of course. And as I said in the viewport, you can load an HDRI image, and you can get the lighting from that. But just for the purpose of the explanation with the normal, I wasn't using the default mode. But you can, yeah, you can select the constant, double click here, change the color, make this a bit brighter, and change the roughness and with the constant, etc. You can visualize things here. But what I usually do is viewing things directly in model. So as you save the image, so I will save the image that we've processed. Save displayed image. Sorry, I should select this. So the mesh smooth node, normal. So file save displayed image, and save this in the temp folder. Okay, so PixaFlux render. Okay, so I will not name it render, just nm50, so 5 for the radius, okay? And we will do a different one with 10. I will just explain why later on. So it processed the image on the top right side. Okay, so the bigger you got the radius, the longer is the process. So of course, if you press 0, you have an instant processing. But the more the bigger is the radius. It's like in Photoshop when you are painting with a big brush. Of course, you may have a process that is longer. But it uses the CPU, and it's multi-threaded. So the more you have the CPUs, the more it works, and that's not so slow. But it tends to crash sometimes. So I don't know. But on the few tests that I've done, it tends to crash sometimes. But I've rendered 4K textures also. Okay, so it can be good also. So if I process this one with just 1 for the radius, you will see that the processing image is just instant. Okay, and it's not 1 pixel all the time. It's the algorithm is about to use the texel density with the scale of the object. It's a bit special. I didn't know exactly how it works, but it's close to those different elements. So the texel density, the space amount on the texture itself. So what I usually do is creating a bounding box object that didn't have any UVs, but define the overall volume if I want to render the same radius for every little object, so with different scale difference. So I will save this one. So we have a radius of 5, 10, and 1 also. So as I do this, I can close this one. You can save also, of course, the project. But now in the shading, we can load those images. So load image, select the image back, and load them. Okay, so now we are loading, for example, the normal map with the 10 radius. So of course, I will go process to linear and change the surface shading to normal. Yes. So as you can see now, without the wireframe, sorry, I activated it, we have no artifact at all. This is really why I like this kind of shading with PixaFlux, is that you cannot get any artifact that you might get with the basic, the included rounded edge shader inside model. So yeah, that's really useful. I will load maybe another layout, palettes, new palettes. I will load the different image to load the rest. Well, I can do this way, but I can directly do this, load image. Again, 5, change this to normal, same stuff. So of course, yeah, 5 and 10. So what is interesting also is you can render different passes, different radius, and then into Substance Painter, that's what I'm using, you can blend, define a different radius and at a different locations. So that's really interesting for that purpose. And as you can see, the result is really great. I don't know in the render, didn't test it already, but it's clean. It's really clean. You can get some line here. Yeah, there's a little line in the render here, but that's probably because of the specularity. But here for the normal itself, it's fine. At least for me, I prefer these results than the typical rounded edge shader with the artifact. I will call them back. Not 5 meters, 5 centimeters, that should be okay. So you see, here we have the artifact, and if I do the same stuff with the normal map here, I didn't have any artifact. Maybe a few lines here and there that you might see, but that's not as obvious as the rounded edge shader here. So yeah, it's really different in that way. So I will maybe load a different mesh to show how it works on a more complex elements. So close all and open back my scene. That scene, okay, I'm working into the bake one. Okay. No, I'm loading the FBX. I didn't want to load the FBX. I want to load the LXO file. So new questions. Just let me take 2 seconds to read the chat. Okay. That finding is awesome. I struggle with that artifact a lot. Yeah, Emmanuel, I totally understand. And yeah, this is why I didn't like this one. The line, well, they are noticeable, but it's maybe the render in model, I don't know, but it's really clean when I'm loading this into Painter, into Substance Painter. So for example here, I have this mesh is just all combined, but it's all of course separated piece by pieces. But I've defined a bounding box, a mesh that have a specific scale, in order to get the same radius when I'm applying the radius on the UVs. So I will load the UVs here. It's applying the same amount for every element at the same scale. Okay, so that's really interesting for that. So I prefer to get this bounding box that didn't have any UVs, or maybe they are too small in a corner here. And also, as you can see, as it didn't work with the UDIM, normally I have those 4 different patches as a UDIM tile like this, but I packed them all into just one pieces, 101 UV space, because PixaFlux couldn't calculate, for example. So take an example. Here we have this element that is connected to this part, and for example, if this part was in a different UV tile, so in a different UV tile here, it might didn't find the color probably to make the blends, so it might didn't blend those. So here I have the results, so I will just remove the box, delete the box, and maybe load the result. So it's probably already there. No, not this one. Okay, so I will create a new material for that. Okay, default, again, changing the value. So on this one, of course, I have the hard edges sets, and it's close to the UV map here. So if I select the hard edge, you can see that it's matching, but not everywhere. So for example, as we've said on this one, here we have a patch that is a loop, okay? So normally the UVs should be cut and get an hard edge here, right? But as every hard edge in PixaFlux, so those will be processed with a blend between this face and this face. We might didn't want to set the hard edge for this one. And the reason is, if you set the hard edge here, it will try to create a blend in between, so it will be seen into the bake. So it will create an artifact that didn't work. So for everything that is round like this, you might didn't set the latest border, UV border here that loops as an hard edge. So you set this as a soft edge. So I will load the UV, the result of the bake. Yeah, I do the check of the normals in marble sets usually with the normal map that is picking from PixaFlux. So I will load the result of the map, not in marble set, but you can load it in model as well. So where is that? PixaFlux. So as I said, I packed all the 4 different UDIM into just one big 4K map. So for example, if I load this one with a radius of 4, I will load this one. Okay, it's there. It's not The UV, that's not the latest one, should change the mesh. So close in, not this one. I worked on this one today, so I should find the good one with the dates. Okay, so go back to bake. LXO file, only LXO file. Packed, repacked, explode. Okay. Ah, that's always an FBX. Don't know, I will probably load the file directly into Marmoset. But I need to activate it because I use it at work, probably. Okay, let me check the login. Okay, open my mail. Okay, so it should work. So import model. Oh, I have the scene probably already. Open scene. Okay, I will browse for different file next time. Okay, so I have here a robotic model, and you might see that here I have different UVs, different materials that are related to different areas. So I pack them into different UDIM. Okay, so this one, what is the name of it? I want to get the name. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I will load the bake for this one. So PixaFlux, this is the number 1, and you see I have different render. So if I open this with your fan view, you see that I have different sets, different render for the different radius. So I'm loading all of those into Substance Painter in order to create different masks and define different radius for different areas on the mesh. So for example, I will load the one with the radius 4. So I will do the same here. Number 2. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, one is missing. Okay, anyway, I done some backup of the file, but something gone wrong. So anyway, we might have some gaps on some parts. And the number 3 is this. Okay. So if I select this one, we select the number 4. It's not matching again. The result is not bad. So here I have a regular radius for every PC, so it might didn't match on some parts of the mesh. So that's why also I'm using Painter for this work. So we launch Painter. I'm loading Painter on the side. Try to load the project. Don't know if it will work. okay, I have my special setup with all the different panels here and there, so it might be not good. Can I reset the viewports? Okay, I will open the file first. So it's under the SP folder. Okay, so I'm loading the file. I will drag and drop the viewports after it loads. Okay, so we'll just close everything. We'll just review every stuff. So what I'm doing here, I'm loading all the biggest, so the biggest chunk with all the UDIM regrouped into just one 01 UV space, as you can see. And here I have different layers with the different radius bake with PixaFlux. So here I have a bigger one that is applied everywhere. So as you can see, it's really smooth with a big radius everywhere. So it didn't fit all the different parts, but it's clean, especially for those kind of stuff. As you can see, it's working really fine. So you got those, and you might, okay, so just for the purpose of the video, I told about the hard edge here, okay, that is probably here or here. No, that's here. Okay, so here we have the both part of this tube, okay, here, and we have a cut here. Okay, so this one didn't have any hard edge here. It's a soft edge, just to loop correctly and have the bake from PixaFlux correctly. And as you can see, it's really smooth. So I can add another layer on top. So what is the one that I've used for those? Okay, that's this one. So I have a radius of 3, and I can paint the radius onto this map. So this one is just, I can reset the UI. Did you know, Emmanuel or Mark, how to get back the reset the UI? Okay, so I reset the UI. I didn't use the shelf. So here I can see that I got the properties of this layer. And so this one I have just the normal, okay, the normal activated, and it's only using this map. So I have all the different maps, of course, loaded as a resource. But now if I want to paint a different effect, I can just, for example, maybe select this one, and if I want some higher, I should change the size of this. Okay, too small. X. And I can paint here to change the rounded edge on this part. So here I'm sharpening the rounded edge. Of course, I need to be careful to didn't go further. But as you can see, I can change this here. I can make this bigger. For example, if I select 4 here and maybe move, I will totally mess up the project, but just for the purpose, move this one at the top, and now I can paint, and I can soften. As you can see, the edge, that's really fine. I mean, also with the pen pressure, if you are using some Wacom, some tablets, you can soften really smoothly with the pen pressure the border. So that's really fine. Yeah, the the GIF on the Slack was about this, doing some blend between different rounded edge, and as you can see, it can be really soft. That's really fine. So you can sharpen different things. Like here, I can sharpen this one, make it more sharp. So sometimes you can see some lines that are happening, but of course I'm using the mouse here for testing this, so it's maybe not the good example. But if you go bigger in size and try to overlap with those areas or those areas that have uniform information, then it will, as you can see, it can blend fairly well. So for example, here I have just the 12 radius, and here I have 2.5 or just 2 here. So I can make this more smooth or more sharp. So yeah, that's all. You can do things really well with that. You can have different kinds of round bevel for different areas. You can make some weld of things. Yeah, there's probably some automated way with this tool, but I don't know. PixaFlux is a tool that was developed by those people who've made some 3ds Max plugins. I don't know if they are trying to release this as a command line or Python scripts or anything. So it might need some tests or further development to get automatized. But yeah. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a bit difficult with the UVs for some reason, so I should check with the kits that I'm using on the Modo 13. Something goes wrong, but yeah, that was really interesting to have different kind of bevel for different location, different areas. I was playing with this this afternoon, and yeah, I thought it might be really interesting. And also, as you can see, you can create some little variation when you are painting to get some really realistic weld between metallic pieces. So that's really interesting, and you are also artifact free with this. So I messed up everything here, so I will probably do things differently, but you can paint back those correct rounded edge. So yeah, there's plenty of solution with this. You might prevent those kind of stuff where you have just one edge here and one edge here and just one edge in between. So if you have not so much information in terms of geometry, you might end it with some artifact also in PixaFlux. So everything is not perfect at all. You know it already. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and let me know on the Slack, on the Twitter, on the Discord also. There's the Discord. So if you have any new question, any new ideas for the next videos. So I think I will stop this, stop this stream, and see you on the next week. I will see if I will change the timing, because maybe it's difficult for people on the US and the Europe to assist to the stream. But anyway, let me know what's your thoughts. Okay, See you guys. See you next time. Bye bye.
Yum, yum!